your home for Kings talk and so much more.
Live and local.
Allen Stiles on Sactown Sports.
Taking you up to 2 p.m. It's a Throw It Down Thursday, also a Throwback Thursday, and Kyle has got the memo with that one. With Yeah by Usher. Taking you up to 2 p.m. And as promised, so we had to move it up a day. Okay, normally we have Brett Siegel on Fridays, but we moved it up to Thursday today because, and Brett, I don't even know if I told you this because I know you're always running around and we were joking earlier that you've made the summer much easier for us out here in Sacramento. But yeah, I'm expecting baby number 2 whenever. Okay, due on Wednesday, Brett. So the next time you're on the Allen Stiles Show for about a month, it might be somebody else. But thank you for joining us.
Hey, congrats, Alan. I did not know that. That's great news to hear. I wish you guys the best, and obviously it's going to be great for you getting kid number 2. Maybe that will be a second athlete that you can add to the family, a pro in the future, maybe.
There you go. Appreciate it. Brett Siegel of Clutch Points. And Brett, let's start here. You've been working your tail off, and like I said, we appreciate it. What are the chances, Brett, when it comes to the Kuminga situation? What are the chances, as far as what you're hearing, that the Warriors could change their offer? Are they okay with with just going with the $7 million, right? Or could they change the offer and say, all right, fine, Joe Lacob wants to do it, let's just do it? Or will they settle on the qualifying offer and let Kuminga basically walk for nothing?
I think that's the final question that we're kind of waiting word on, and we'll get a little bit more clarity on after Labor Day and entering that second week of September of will they change their offer? Because right now there's 2 paths out there. There's the path where Kuminga can take the 2-year, $45 million deal that has a team option, and he would waive the no trade clause he would get. So far, Kuminga has completely shut that down, saying that is not a deal he wants. He won't be accepting that. And if that's the only offer they give him, he will be forced to take option number 2, which is his qualifying offer, and return to the Warriors on a $7.9 million qualifying offer for 1 year. They won't be able to trade him. He'll have a no trade clause. It will create a very toxic environment, given that he's basically given the middle finger to the organization in a sense, and saying, I'm just going to enter free agency in 2026, regardless of what you guys think. So those are the 2 paths right now. Whether or not the Warriors will change their offer, that's what we want to know. And I think that honestly, if they change it slightly and just make the team option a player option instead, or guarantee that second year, it gives Kuminga a lot more optionality, because he does want to become a free agent. He wants to capitalize on the fact that there's going to be a lot more money in 2026. There's going to be a lot more teams that could potentially have interest in him, with some other organizations having veteran contract expires, and then obviously more room to maneuver the cap and the first and second aprons to sign him. So that's really where Kuminga and his camp are at this point. He understands that a path to returning to the Warriors is what's going to happen. There's no sign and trade talks. He's going to be on the Warriors roster. It's just a matter of, will it be on a contract that the Warriors could potentially trade and make him happy to become a free agent in 2026? Or will he take less money to just truly enter free agency pretty much a year early on that qualifying offer?
Talking to Brett Siegel of Clutch Points, national NBA insider and reporter. So I think you may have answered my question, my second question, Brett, because there are a lot of different reports. We'll talk about Devin Carter and what the Steinline has had to say, but there are a lot of different reports when it comes to Russell Westbrook and his connection to the Kings, and whether or not they're able to acquire Jonathan Kuminga, and in that situation, move off of Malik Monk. Are the sign and trade deals as close to officially done as they could be? Obviously, they don't have to officially say anything, but are they as close to officially done as they could be for the Kings and anybody else that may be interested? I know the Suns were involved. So is that completely cooked? Is that done?
Yeah, I'd say that they're pretty much done at this point, pretty much since the last offer from the Kings, where they offered Malik Monk and that protected first-round pick. It's just not a package that the Warriors wanted, and I know that we've talked about it countless times, where they would have had to sacrifice either Buddy Hield or Moses Moody to the Kings or another team just to make the base year compensation work there in a Kuminga sign and trade. So It's not something that the Warriors want to do if they are to do a sign and trade for Kuminga. The whole mindset entering the offseason was that they were going to do so and only move Kuminga and get assets back. Now you're talking about having to attach more to it. That's not what is on the Warriors' agenda at this time. And therefore, we're basically done talking about sign and trades unless out of nowhere there's some random team or some random offer that comes out of the woodworks that the Warriors just can't turn down. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. It does really do look like that there's just these two paths. He either takes a contract with the Warriors. It's going to be a 2-year deal either way, I would assume, whether it's a team option, player option, partial guarantees, we'll see, or that qualifying offer.
Talking to Brett Siegel, national NBA insider and reporter for Clutch Points. Brett, let's say that the Warriors do change their offer and it's 3 years, or they change it to a player option, whatever they need to do, and Kuminga signs it. How many teams do you think would be interested? Because he's saying that he wants to feel valued, but at the same time, we know that he would most likely want to be traded and that the Warriors most likely would want to trade him. From the Kings standpoint and why they were so interested in trying to get him now where things were more complicated. If he signs a deal with the Warriors that's not the qualifying offer, how many teams do you think would be interested in Jonathan Kuminga come January, whenever he'd be available for a move like that?
I think it's a lot more than we're leading on with these sign and trade talks all off season, because of the fact, not only because there's injuries throughout the season and teams look to change course, and a 22-year-old, 23-year-old forward, that's a high flyer, a lot of potential. There's going to be interest there, but just from the fact of doing a sign and trade is so tough because a team hard caps themselves by taking that incoming salary. You have the Warriors who need to try to match salaries with Kuminga's outgoing number being half of what it is based on the rules of sign and trade language. So if you're able to sign him to, let's say, $20 million for this upcoming year, that's now 100% that you can trade away, and you can fill gaps around your roster with 2 players, 3 players. Maybe it's just one guy. Maybe you package Kuminga with something else to get another upgrade on your roster. So it opens a lot more options. And that's kind of where the Warriors are at in terms of getting Kuminga back. Obviously, there's hope that they can work stuff out. Joe Lacob has obviously been very high on Jonathan Kuminga over the last few years. There's others in the organization and in the front office that feel the same as Lacob. And then there's some that just view him as a potential trade exception in a way where you're getting $21 million on the books, and you can now spend that over the next few months before the trade deadline. So that's where the Kuminga stuff lies at this point. He kind of understands that his long-term future isn't going to be with the Warriors. And so that's why we've kind of reached this stalemate where it's give me what I want, or else I'm just going to take the qualifying offer and you can figure it out from there.
Talking to Brett Siegel, national NBA insider and reporter for Clutch Points. Brett, I'm going to ask you it this way. Would you be surprised if the Kings were able to acquire Jonathan Kuminga after the season starts? Whether that's through a deal or whether that's free agency. Basically, do you think this was the Kings' best chance to get Jonathan Kuminga?
No, I don't think so. I think that there's absolutely a path to them being able to trade for him before the trade deadline. And you look at the makeup of their roster, and the Kings are one of the biggest question marks in the league, because many of us have asked, well, what direction are they going? Because you have a bunch of veterans on this roster, guys that don't necessarily fit the style of one another. And so if things aren't going well, come December, come January, we may see the Kings become ultimate sellers at the trade deadline. And if you go out and trade for Jonathan Kuminga, you're doing that for the future, especially since he's made it known that that's one of the destinations that he would want to play for. When he met with the Kings, everything was said to go very well. He liked their vision for how they would want to use him, and he would probably very welcome that trade before the trade deadline. And we've talked about Malik Monk being a potential outgoing piece. We've talked about DeMar DeRozan potentially being moved before the trade deadline. So there's the possibility for a multi-team trade there to develop. And I definitely wouldn't say that because they weren't able to get him in a sign and trade this offseason that the Kings have no chance of getting Jonathan Kuminga. I actually think that it works in their favor if he returns to the Warriors on said 2-year, $45 million deal, because they can get him at a cheaper price than they probably could have on the open market right now if he was an unrestricted free agent. And they can get an early look at him before locking him in for a 3 or 4 year contract. They can really see, how is this going to work next to Keegan Murray? How is this going to work next to some of the guys that we want lined up in Sacramento for our future, and then go from there, entering 2026 free agency.
Talking to Brett Siegel. Brett, what are you hearing on the Russell Westbrook front? I'm still a bit surprised that no other team is connected to him at this stage in the game. From what we're told, it's just the Sacramento Kings. What are you hearing regarding Russell Westbrook?
Yeah, everything remains pretty much unchanged there since the beginning of free agency, where he met with the Kings. The Kings have interest in Russ. There are a few other teams mentioned as potential suitors, but those organizations have gone different ways with their backcourt, and they're no longer interested in Russ. So the only team that we keep hearing is the Kings. And obviously, I know that we've talked about it, Allen, where you have this roster crunch of guards, because why would you bring in Westbrook if you still have Devin Carter, you still have Malik Monk, you just signed Dennis Schroeder. So where does Westbrook fit into this equation? And the whole idea is, well, if you were going to get Jonathan Kuminga, one of those guards would have walked out the door, whether it's Malik Monk or Devin Carter. Now, since that's not going to happen, you have to look at other avenues. It doesn't seem like that the Kings are actively trying to move Malik Monk. I think that idea was inflated a little bit. It's more of they were looking at potential trades involving him, but it was more so of talking to teams, seeing what his value was and seeing what they could get back in return, because they weren't going to give up a good player like Monk, who's been in the Sixth Man of the Year discussion for the Kings over the last few years, if they were just going to get like a second-round pick and a guy on an expiring contract back. They want to get value, which is why they were willing to include him in the dialogue for Jonathan Kuminga, a young, high-potential guy that could be a foundational piece for them in this organization. But there's really no avenue to moving Monk and getting that kind of value right now. That's why he's most likely going to stay on their roster unless something develops over the next few weeks leading up to training camp. When you talk about Devin Carter, obviously a much easier contract to move since he is just entering the second year of his rookie deal, just south of $5 million. And there's teams that would take a swing on a player like that who still has two-way potential. You can still kind of mold him into what you want in this league. And I think that that's why there would obviously be more interest in the preseason in a guy like Devin Carter than there would be in a proven veteran on an $18 million contract that still has years left, like Malik Monk. Obviously, it doesn't seem like there's anything really brewing at this time in terms of, there's a trade developing for the Kings or actively looking to move Devin Carter. I think that they're still weighing all their options and seeing what's out there. Will they make a potential move? We'll see. In my mind, I think that the best move for them, if they did want to bring in Russ, is to just waive Terrence Davis since he has that non-guaranteed deal, sign Russ to a minimum, and then figure it out from there, because you have time between now and the trade deadline to do so.
Yeah, and that's what we've been discussing, and you basically turn it into Spartacus and have all of those guards battle for playing time. Talking to Brett Siegel, national NBA insider and reporter for Clutch Points. Brett, the Stein line came out, Jake Fisher did earlier this morning, and they basically said that the Kings would be more likely to move Devin Carter to make room for Russell Westbrook than Malik Monk. Obviously, like I said, this thing just came out, but Kyle and I were trying to figure out what a potential deal for Devin Carter even looks like. Could it be, so just from your perspective, if this is just a pure Devin Carter move, right, whether we agree with it or not, a pure Devin Carter move to remove one of the guards from this roster, what do you think a trade like that could be? Are we talking a couple second? Kyle made a good point. Cam Whitmore went for 2 second rounders. So is it 1 second rounder for Devin Carter? Is it a random, I guess, player from a different position that maybe their team gave up on him as well, or are trying to move in a different direction? What would a pure Devin Carter deal possibly look like, just off the top of your head?
It's a good question, because we're talking about a guy that hasn't really played much. He was injured for a vast majority of the season last year. In Summer League, he struggled and didn't really look like how many thought he should out there on the court entering his second year. So there's some concerns about what his role will look like. And when you look at Sacramento's depth chart from the outside perspective and from another team's perspective, you're talking about a guard that is maybe third or fourth in the lineage for when he's going to play, 11th, 12th, 13th guy on their bench will do. So when you're looking at it from those organizations' perspective, they're not going to overpay for Devin Carter, A, because they know the Kings are looking to deal him to sign Russell Westbrook, And B, he's not the lottery pick or the high first round pick that people thought he could be. Could he still develop in that? Absolutely. There's still plenty of time for Carter to turn things around and be a really good player. But until they can actually see him play, it's still a major unknown. So yeah, I would venture to say maybe 1 second round pick, maybe even a protected second round pick at that point. So when you're talking that kind of less value on a draft pick and you're really not getting anything in return, what's the point of giving up that kind of player? Wouldn't you want to just see what he can provide you with rather than sign a 37, 38, 39-year-old Russell Westbrook who's only going to be with you for a year or two? So that's kind of where my thinking's at with Devin Carter. I don't think that they're just going to dump him to sign Russell Westbrook. If there's some kind of value that they can get in return, whether that's another young player in another situation that has his own struggles with the team and needs a new foundation or a new organization to prove what he's worth, I think that that's something they could explore. But if we're just talking about dumping Devin Carter for Russell Westbrook, I don't understand the vision there.
Brett Siegel. Always a pleasure, Brett, national NBA insider and reporter for Clutch Points. Brett, thank you for taking the time. We will talk to you soon. I'll let you know how everything goes on my end, but either way, we will get you back on when I'm back, and we will follow this thing. Look, you know what's going to happen, Brett. All this news is going to break while I'm on paternity leave. That's exactly what's going to happen. and be sure to follow Brett Siegel on social media and check out all of his work on clutchpoints.com to stay in the loop. Appreciate you, Brett. We'll talk to you again soon.